Coming to you from my parents' basement, this is Space News with Gillis Lowry. Good day to you all, or night, depending. We're reporting the latest scoop from Washington, which promises to prove our all-American strength against the Soviets. You know, those guys. Sent up a beeping Newton's cradle ball 2 years ago, and we're all very scared, or eager, to assert ourselves. We're turning our sights to the moon, but Kennedy's not president yet, so forget all that moon landing business. We're hoping to shoot for it, literally, with an atom bomb. A study of lunar research flights was conducted to see if a nuke on the moon would be visible from Earth. You may recognize some familiar names. Carl Sagan was the ripe age of 22 when he was invited to do nuclear moon math. They justified it by focusing on the scientific aspects. The hope a nuke might stir up organic molecules on the moon, or provide a chance to study seismic activity. But as with most government-sponsored science back then, the goal was really to beat the Soviets, especially since, as it turns out, they later considered nuking it themselves. But a nuclear explosion on the moon would really only hit a tiny part of the surface. We'd see a flash, but there wouldn't be any mushroom cloud. Those are caused by the rising and cooling of hot air, and there's not enough of an atmosphere on the moon for that to happen. There'd just be a lot of dust. Project A119 was cancelled for some reason or another. Maybe because the Air Force didn't want to mess up the moon, or, far more likely, because the risk of blowing ourselves up, or somebody else's city, was rather not worth it. Oh, that, yeah, don't worry about that. Don't. Another nuclear project has begun, but rather than nuking the moon, we're hoping to spurt out some warheads behind us and let the force of the shock wave send us forward. These ones here are just normal test explosions, of course. On the real thing, we'd have a heavy plate on the back to protect the spacecraft, and springs to absorb the shock. We'd like to keep the acceleration of the ship at roughly 4 times that of Earth, because otherwise, we might accidentally go at 10,000 times the force of gravity and kill everyone. Also, we haven't really gotten around to solving the nuclear radiation problem yet. Oh, well, we won't have to worry about that now. Another cancellation. It's 1965. We're a bit busy with Apollo and the moon landing stuff anyway. So, atom bomb rockets may not have been a winner. But how about powering the ship with a regular old nuclear reactor?
NERVA, nuclear engine for rocket vehicle applications.
This time, we won't be exploding anything. We'll still be doing nuclear fission, but we'll be expelling super hot hydrogen behind us, rather than waiting on a push from the explosion. The hydrogen is also what separates a nuclear rocket from a nuclear power plant. Those use water to cool down, whereas using hydrogen to absorb heat is much more convenient for rockets, since the superhot gas is great for propelling us. Nuclear reactor power plants typically reach around 600 Kelvin, or about 620 degrees Fahrenheit. But our NERVA tests have reached over 2,683 Kelvin and 4,370 degrees Fahrenheit.
A manned trip to Mars and return may become the mission assignment. Here is one way it might be done with nuclear rocket propulsion.
In the years following the moon landing, a Mars mission by 1979 and a permanent moon base by 1981 didn't seem like a stretch. But we won the space race after all. The Soviets weren't really a threat above Earth anymore, so there was no political advantage to keeping NASA's budget high. NERVA's been cancelled now in 1973, less than a year after the final manned trip to the moon. I don't know how, but they found me. I guess it was inevitable after giving away government secrets for 10 years. Cut. The space race may be over, But the threat from the Soviets isn't. We need something to protect us from absolute devastation. Something big, flashy, and beautiful. We've got X-ray lasers to zap the nukes. We've got swarms of micro-missiles we can send into orbit. All this and more by the president, who initially wanted to build up nuclear warheads but then later had a complete change of mind, Ronald Reagan. He loves defense so much that he might just forego the Soviets' much better proposal to eliminate warheads. But never mind that, because this threatens to be the most amazing application of engineering we've ever...
Exceptionally leaky, would let through enough Soviet warheads if the Soviets chose to attack the United States to utterly destroy the United States and perhaps to bring about nuclear winter as well. The Soviets can outfox the system, underfly it, overwhelm it. It is ruinously expensive. It abrogates a large number of treaties that the United States has solemnly signed. And in addition, it is likely to bring about nuclear war itself if the Soviets were to believe, as they say, that it is a part of an American plan for a first strike. Apart from that, it's a terrific idea.
Okay, so it turns out most of this stuff requires decades of work and higher tech than we have in the 80s. I didn't even get to leak any secrets this time. Well, we've made it to 1990. The Soviet Union is set to dissolve, and H.W. Bush is in office. We've come a long way, so maybe we can start to look back towards those peaceful ideas. The moon and maybe Mars. First, we want to set up a space station. It can be a jumping off point for those missions, and reachable by shuttle. Think of all the great science experiments too. We've made a whole mock-up complete with a toilet. Reagan actually signed off on Space Station Freedom in 1984, and it was meant to be outfitted with a sick bay as well as recreation facilities. As with the projects that came before, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, for example, and any and all talk of Moon and Mars bases, Space Station Freedom was a bit too much to get off the ground. But it formed the foundation for the International Space Station, where the basis of global cooperation is, in my opinion, a much more heroic endeavor than making one just for yourself. You can't really have freedom if everyone's your enemy. Better to try being friends, or at least speaking terms. I'm Gillis Lowry, and this has been Space News, where I've managed to not be arrested.